So let's get straight into the comparison here, because there are some super cool things to compare. First of all, let's just compare the general look and feel of all of these traps. So if you start with the Spirit Halloween trap, this trap is very simple. It does have painted doors, which interestingly enough, when you compare the doors with these two, with the Matty Collector's trap, this has a sticker for the trap. These two traps, this one and the Haslab, have a sprayed finish. And of all the traps in this collection, the Haslab is the one that's got what I'm going to call the most wear and tear and aging that's been put on it. And actually, the weathering on this is top notch. It's been really beautifully done. The other two traps are not weathered in any way. They're designed to look brand new. And so immediately when you see the Haslab, you feel like this is something that's been used and abused out in the field. A few other detailed comparisons that are going to be really obvious is, let's just turn these to this side. So some of the key parts that are very different, obviously on here, this is a very simple slide on the Spirit trap. It doesn't project out much. The resistor that's on the side here is basically flat. And the paint job, as we said before, this is white on these traps. This is much more in the universe. The resistor's fatter, and this side sticks out. There's also a button that actually works. Kind of satisfying sound, actually. And then here on the Haslab, for all intents and purposes to me, other than the fact there's no holes in the resistor, looks like the actual resistor that was on the original traps. And this looks much more like the actual prop itself. It's quite an impressive thing. Same with the other side. We should swap these around here and show the other side. On the Spirit, these red bars here and the white, the button doesn't work. On the Matty, these are swappable, so you can take these off. It's in silver mode right now, which is GB2. On the Haslab, again, these are swappable. It changes the sound effects or changes some of the audio depending on which set of these that you put on here. And this, again, this is a proper selector. So it's a real switch. And this is real metal on here. And I don't believe on these others that is the case. No, so that's plastic. And obviously on the Spirit, it's plastic as well. And I know I already kind of talked about the top with the stickers, but I'm going to talk about it in more detail. Here on the Spirit trap, one of the things that I really dislike about the trap is that the molding line. So this when it was manufactured was made in two parts that can be taken apart. And if you watch any of my videos, I'll put the link up in the top corner here for my video on this. But I've modded this in the past, and getting rid of this seam with panels that I laser cut is one of the first things that I do. You can see where they pop this out of the mold, and it snags on your fingers here. The other big thing is, of course, the light and the switch are very, very different here. So that's not really completely accurate to the movies, and the switch is totally not accurate at all. So a big difference here on the top, you can see, other than the stickers for the trapdoors, which I don't like very much, the switch is very similar to the switch that's used in the movie. They've even got these little rivets here around the side, and they've got a real LED bar here. You get this little flash of light in here, and also occasionally a shake from the trap, which I think is very, very cool. On the bar chart here, there are just 3 lights, so it's not a full bar chart. And there's no trap full light here either. Oh, there you go. You saw it do its little rumble vibration, which is very, very cool. So I'm going to turn this off. The bar chart, I think, is a lot more delineated. The riveting finish on here is much more true to the real trap. And the other thing here at the base is that this light is much more accurate. The other big thing to note here is that compared to all of these traps, where you see that the doors are not above the top of the trap, the profile looks exactly like it should. The other thing to note here, these wheels are beautiful. They're metal. So the first thing that you feel when you pick this whole thing up is that it's got weight to it and that it's made of metal, even though not all of it is. But there are some really big panels, the 2 side panels, the wheels, obviously the clip, and that's the other big thing on the base here, is that you've got the belt clip or the V-clip to be able to use here. And again, I'll just show you for comparison the bottom. I think that the battery door is a lot more obvious on this one, which is interesting because on this one it isn't obvious, but the bottom of this one is just not very exciting. And the wheels are just plastic here. And again, the wheels are plastic on this one as well. They actually look very similar, but this one has a very substantially different looking base to it, which is very, very, very cool. And then finally, let's just look at the back here. So I'll start with the Haslab. So this has got the sticker and the connector running to the cable that connects it to the pedal. We'll look at pedal comparison in a second. The Matty has a much more plasticky connector, which is very different to the connector on here. So this is essentially a plastic connector with a headphone jack in it, which enables you to connect the trap to the pedal. I think this looks a little bit more like it does in the movie, except it does look, I have to say, very plasticky, this version. Whereas the connector that they've used on this trap when it's connected is an aviation connector, which I think is a really smart move. Let me just pull that out. So it's a 3-pin aviation connector that they've got in there. And the beautiful thing about this is that because you've got an aviation connector, you can hold the trap, and it's substantially heavy. So you need something that's going to hold it in place. I'm pretty sure that this cable will hold the Matty as well, but I wouldn't like to hold on for it for too long because it's really just a press kind of connection there. It's not really a substantial enough. I wouldn't want to run down the street holding that. I mean, I'm not sure I want to run down the street holding this either, but I know that this at least is gonna stay in place, which is great. So, having done those comparisons, let's look at the pedals. You can see immediately that there's a size difference. So the Matty pedal is much, much smaller, and some of the details on both of these are very, very different. So the first thing that my eye is drawn to on the Haslab is the fact that this ribbon cable looks real. This relay that's been put on the top here just looks fantastic. Again, this one that's on here, there's quite a lot of plastic on here. All these connectors are plastic. This is heavier, more substantial, and has a lot more metal parts on it. And again, has the same connector. This is a commercially available connector. You could buy these connectors on Amazon, so there'd be no reason that you couldn't craft your own even longer cables if you wanted to for other purposes. Definitely going to be able to start crafting these. The final thing that we should really look at is the electronics. And as I mentioned before, the electronics that come in the Haslab are pretty epic. Feel like there are 100 settings. There probably aren't 100. But it feels like there are lots of settings for different ghosts. You can change the volume of this, and it's very responsive. And then the Matty, one thing I did notice about the electronics in the Matty is that it feels like, and I need to do a little bit more investigating on this, but it feels like the volume is a little bit higher, so you can hear the sounds a bit better. And then obviously with the Spirit, it only does one thing. So we'll start there. So when you open the trapdoors, this is what you get. This flashes, You get 2 green lights, and then it just stops. It's as simple as that. And when it shuts, nothing happens. It just goes back to its default state of the bar chart kind of doing its flashing thing. The other thing to note is that the bar chart, this first light never goes off. Very simple, has its place. And again, if you're wanting to start with a basic trap and do a mod yourself because you didn't get the Haslab, this is a great place to start. And as I said, I've got videos that show how I did this.
I have a whole bunch of videos on modding spirit traps, from adding motorized doors, to creating more screen realistic looks, to even adding your own smoke. You can check them out in the link above or the description below.
The Matty trap, you switch it on. There's one setting on the switch, and I mention that because there's 2 settings on the Haslab. You press the pedal, and it opens. You press it again, and then it's captured the ghost. And so then what you'll see on the top here is that lights up to show that it's full. And then you get the flashing light. It stays in this kind of mode where it plays the sound and kind of flickers. See it here. I really like that flickering. It reminds me of the arcing electricity in the trap. So yeah, that's cool. I quite like it, but that's basically it. And you do see that it does move as well. There's like a little bit of moving, so you hear banging on the trap, and it moves occasionally and does. I think it's a really nice setting. There you go. This trap has two settings, and I'm not going to go into all the detail of it now because it's just too much to try and fit into this. What I'm trying to keep fairly short video. But there are two settings. So I'm just going to put it on the first one now. And so it's in a base setting now. It lights up like this. It's worth noting there's some cool features. This is the volume control. So when you change the volume, that's full. When you turn it down, it shows that the volume is changing by where it puts it on the trap bar chart. And it also shakes when you do it. But yeah, so we're going to press the pedal. It immediately opens. This is the lighting effect you get. And the big difference here on this trap with the Matty is there's space here. So if you wanted to put a smoke machine or some kind of smoke generator inside, you could. The door closes and you've trapped your ghost. The sound feels cleaner and clearer on this than it does on the Matty. Like it's cleaned up more. And this dial on the side here changes the audio program and lighting program. So there's a ghost there, one ghost.
For a full detailed breakdown of the Haslab trap and functions, you're going to want to check out my unboxing and questions videos, where I delve deeper into the functionality of the trap and even tear it down. You can check them out in the link above or the description below.
Both of these traps enable you to be able to get the trap out of here. And what I mean by that is you can pull this and then you can take the trap out, and then that goes into a containment unit. And one of the really cool features of this version, the Hasab version, is that the battery pack for the whole trap is actually here. So when you look at this, there's no indication of a battery compartment, which is pretty cool. I like that feature. And this is just great. The Matty does it as well. There's a button here you pull. Not as slick on this version, I would say. There's no sound effects when you plug it back in or anything like that. This is a lot more in universe and a lot more accurate. And the final thing I needed to mention that I forgot earlier is the switches on here. So again, the switches on the back here do work. The switches on this one, they all work. And I believe that they have an impact again on what the trap does. And again, there's a lot more reading that I need to do to decipher everything that this does to enable those outcomes, but everything works.
A huge thanks needs to go out to Nick from Gotham Cinema Rides, who provided this amazing space for me to film in, with the epic Ecto 1NJ behind me. If you're looking for a Ghostbusters experience, check out Ghost Tours of New York City. And there's even more epic cars to experience. Go to GothamCinemaRide.com to find out more. If you want to find out more about making your own trap, you should watch one of these two videos. This one or this one.